I meet with a lot of CIOs, and the CIOs so many of them are like, I have an edict from the board to have an AI strategy. Help me. What should my AI strategy be? And so that's how I see the board's role, not as somebody who knows the strategy, but is keeping people honest of making sure they are doing it and that they're seeing tangible results.
Welcome to Data and AI Mastery, the podcast where we bring you cutting-edge insights, practical advice, and inspiring stories from the leaders shaping the future of data and AI across the globe. I'm your host, Raoul-Gabriel Urma, founder of Cambridge Spark, the leader in transformational data and AI upskilling, career development, and progression. In each episode, I will be diving into real-world case studies of companies harnessing the power of AI to drive innovation, reduce costs, and create new business opportunities. So whether you're an aspiring data scientist, AI engineer, or seasoned executive, this show is designed to give you the tools and knowledge to stay ahead in a world where data is transforming every aspect of business. Stay ahead, stay inspired, stay masterful. Welcome to Data and AI Mastery. Hi Tamar, good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, what a delight. I think we're in for an absolute treat. You have one of the most impressive background I've seen, so I can't wait for a discussion.
Oh, thank you.
I'd love to trace your background because you worked at some really impressive companies in really impactful roles. So you were VP at Google, chief products at Slack. You were a board member for like several big companies as well, like Snyk, ServiceNow, and so on. So I was going to ask you, for those that, have the ambition to have a successful career industry, what sort of advice do you wish you had received earlier, or would you give them today?
The advice that I would give is definitely to follow people who you're going to learn from and follow people where you're learning from the people who are the best at what they do. So if you want to learn about some kind of infrastructure engineering or sales, like go to the places where there's the best salespeople or the best infrastructure engineers. And then you're going to learn the techniques that are going to serve you well, whether or not the company succeeds. Not every company I went to did well, but a lot of them did. And the ones who did were like you were really learning from the best. And so that's what I encourage people to try and do. And companies that are aggregating good people, you also get a good network. My network is full of ex-Google people. And so all of us who work together, we're now all over the valley and we keep in touch all the time. We share learnings. And so that's a really powerful thing, the network that you're building throughout your career. And then also see where the trends are taking. So when after Slack, when I went to Glean, part of it was, wow, AI is going to change how development is going. So I need to be in a company to experience that. So what are the things that are going to be important for you, like the internet or Java programming or, working with LLMs, whatever it is, like seeing where that's going to be relevant to where the industry is going.
So in terms of your leadership experience, so, VP at Google, CP at Slack, and so on, what are sort of leadership principles you follow that maybe others can learn from?
One is there's lots of different ways that people lead and be authentic to who you are. You don't have to say, oh, this is a good leader, I'm going to mimic them, because if it's not authentic to you, who you are, it's not going to come across well. So be who you are, be transparent so that people understand why you make the decisions you make. Because I think that's really important for people to follow you. They need to understand you. And so you have to communicate effectively and you have to be consistent in your principles of what's important to you. So when I was at Amazon when it was much smaller, and I was very lucky to have like quarterly reviews with Jeff Bezos. And one of the things that
Wow.
was really, yeah, it was amazing. I learned a lot from those meetings. And one of the things about him that really stood out to me was his consistency. Like he had his principles of what was important to him, and you knew what he was going to ask you, and you knew what was important to him. So, like, the customers were very important. Like, how is this our customers going to view it? You knew you'd always be asked, like, what is the value to the customer? Every time. You knew that he didn't like icons. And it's like, what does this icon do? Because it wasn't very explanatory. You knew that if something wasn't relevant, he was going to get upset. And so I always knew how to prepare, and so then you know what the expectations are. And when your organization gets larger, if those principles are consistent, people can follow them more effectively. And then you don't surprise them. And with Stuart Butterfield, the CEO and founder of Slack, that was another thing when I got there, spent a lot of time on the product principles to try and pull them out of his head and say, what are the things that are important to you? And we came up with our product principles that then we really kind of talked about all the time. We made special icons for them. I would like that represented each principle that we could use all the time. Every product review used the same principles. So that consistency helps drive whatever culture it is, whether it's frugality and customer focus at Amazon or, like technical depth at Google, then people can operate as the company scales. So that kind of transparency together with consistency, I think is really important.
Now, I'd love to talk about AI in action. I mean, to kick us off, what are you hearing in the boardroom right now with AI? How, you know, Ned's approaching it? How does that look like?
People are stressed. People are feeling like, okay, AI is coming and we need to make sure that we're not going to become irrelevant. And we, as in every company. And board members don't have any information that other people don't have. They read the same articles. Their lens is more of a long-term lens and a strategic lens. So that's really the big difference. But they don't necessarily have the answers. Board members don't say, "You should do this." A board member is like, "How are you reacting to the new AI trends?" They wanna see that a company is taking it seriously. They're the push to say, "Wait, you say you're doing this, but show me what are you actually doing?" And so in a company, it's easy to say, "Oh, I tried this, I tried that, it didn't work." I'm putting that aside. I've talked to many people who are like, yeah, AI doesn't really work. I tried it for this one thing, it hallucinated, and so, yeah, it's all overblown, and they don't really try because they're scared for their job, they're scared for the organization, they don't know what to do, so the board is there to say, "No, you need to take this seriously." So in my job at Glean, meet with a lot of CIOs, and the CIOs so many of them are like, "I have an edict from the board to have an AI strategy. Help me. What should my AI strategy be?" And so that's how I see the board's role, not as somebody who knows the strategy, but is keeping people honest of making sure they are doing it and that they're seeing tangible results. Like, the first year of AI was just do something. Like, use a tool, say you're doing something, and it was a lot of prototyping, and people weren't really looking at the value in the results. And now, 2025, it's much more people are demanding, "Well, you're spending this much money, where is the value?" So now the board is saying, "Show me the ROI, show me how you" it's not dictating how you measure, but they're saying, "How are you measuring it?" And show me that you're measuring it and show me that you're getting value from it. And they often also most board members sit on multiple boards, so they often will bring learnings from other boards, and they'll say, "Well, on this board I'm at, I saw that they're doing it this way. X% of their code is being generated. What about you?"
Super interesting. So let's dig into this a little further. How important is it for board members to be technical or AI literate? You know, because there's nothing worse for an exec or a CEO in this case to kind of like get challenged and like you need to do this, you need your strategy, but you have no clue what you're talking about. So how do you manage that? How can like exec, I guess, manage expectation of the board, and how accountable should board members be to actually understand the space? What's your view on that?
So boards are usually made up of people with different expertise. So it's very different between a public company and a private company. Public companies are much more fiduciary responsibilities, governance, where private companies is much more building of the strategy and trying to be a public company. So the makeups of boards in private companies tend to be more VC heavy and don't always have independence, Whereas public boards, it's mostly independents. So you usually have one finance person, a legal person, a go-to-market person, a product person, so you try and get that set. So I absolutely wouldn't say that everyone needs to be AI literate on a board, but what they have to do is they have to be aware of the industry and where it's going, whatever your industry is in, and they have to be educated about that industry. They have to see what the peers are doing so that they can know that you're going to win and you're going to be ahead. I wouldn't say that the board members need to like understand, how foundation models are built or weights of different models or open source versus closed source, but they have to be versant enough to say what is your strategy and then to understand it and how it impacts the business. So like, are you using AI for customer support? If you are, they have to know to say, well, what's your resolution time and is it going down? So they shouldn't again dictate which metric you're using, but they should know to ask for a metric. And then I would say every board should at least have one board member who's AI, knowledgeable and who can talk to the trends and who can know what the latest is to be asking how they're dealing with the latest.
That's super insightful. So in terms of metrics, what are the type of metrics you'd expect, your CIO and CEO to report back to the board around AI? I'm hearing companies where they have a simple metrics, which is what's the P&L improvements where, AI has played a part, where there might be some efficiency gain or some revenue creation, but, as simple as that. Do you think there should be more in-depth metrics, or what would you expect to see in your board pack?
For the board, it really is the same metrics that are your business metrics. What's the efficiency that you're using? Like how are you spending and what are you getting out of it? So I don't necessarily see like what's your go to market? What tools are you using for go to market? What's your close rate? What's the time to close? Because AI can improve all of these metrics. If you're using the BDR tools, like, you can reduce your cost for getting leads, or you can get more of them. So I think the business metrics don't necessarily change. It's just that you can radically shift the input to those metrics if you're doing AI well, like, again, in customer support, in the resolution time, in code, how much code are you generating? How many engineers do you have? What is your efficiency that you're getting? But, the most important thing is your cost, your margins, your cost for what you're accomplishing. So I think that board members might want to double click to see, well, are you like if these numbers aren't where you think they should be or they're not improving from previous pre-AI eras, then to double click and say, well, how are you measuring what's getting you there? What tools are you using? How are you shifting what tools you're using? Are you experimenting with new things? Do you have anything that you're experimenting with on a small scale that if it works and you can expand it, it's going to improve the margins over time? So the way that I look at the AI, there's the cost savings and then there's the revenue growth because there's a lot of things on the cost savings, but there's also new product lines that you could be developing with AI. So your company could be actually developing AI products, which then has more impact on your top line.
So when you meet, you know, execs in the industry, you mentioned a few CIOs. What are the challenges that those individuals have today?
One executive at a large bank we were having a presentation on Glean, she said to me, I get so much inbound from AI startups. I'm inundated with these AI startups. They come to me and they say, we're going to do this for you. We're going to do that for you. She's like, they all sound the same. They're all saying the same thing. Like, how do I decide between them? And so that's right now with the overwhelming, every large company has an AI offering and says they do everything. So I think the biggest challenge is deciphering what's real. And so there's a pretty marketing slide or a pretty website that says, we will save you this much, or we will, like, we're going to be your automated, customer support rep or BDR. And then you talk to somebody else and you're like, we tried it, but it didn't work and it had lots of issues, or it didn't have the ROI that it had. So I think that's the biggest challenge. It's not that there's a lack of products out there, it's that there are too many and a lot of them are really early. And if they're early, it's hard to get validation. So what I told her and what I tell people is really what you need to do is talk to your peers. So there's a lot of forums right now of CIOs and CTOs and or whatever function talking with a as peer groups to discuss their AI tools. And you want to hear from one of your peers, oh, we tried these 10 tools and this one really worked and we've implemented it. We've seen the ROI because now it's been enough time that there are products that have broken out because they're showing value. And so you want that proof. If you're like a large bank, you don't want to be like testing out like the first testers, the design partners for that. Maybe you have a like small team that's doing it. You can save that for like the more progressive, smaller companies to be the design partners. So now if you are one of those smaller companies, you wanna be a design partner, if you got a big problem you're trying to solve, that can actually so I know one not a small company, yeah, tech company that wanted to solve a problem and was a design partner to a startup with 4 people, and then that tool became almost part of their extension of their development team. And then they developed it together, and then the tool ended up doing well. And so that's the other extreme. So you can be a design partner to solve something that's really important to you and work with a startup to help them be successful, to show if it's a domain that there really isn't a great tool out there, but you know that something can be developed. So those would be my 2 ends of the spectrum. Invest in it and really tie yourself to someone, or let other people do it and ask your peers and go with the tried and true.
What other use cases are you excited about before we talk about Glean?
I think there's with new technology, it usually starts by automating existing processes, and then it goes to fully changing how you work. I think we're still in the first phase of like, I used to write this spreadsheet and now AI can write the spreadsheet for me. Or I would answer calls, a human would answer a call, now an AI can answer a call. Well, how do you get to the point where you're not even getting those calls in the first place? Or you don't even have to build those spreadsheets in the first place? And that's like the second phase. The second phase, like the first phase of mobile was we're gonna take a desktop website and we're gonna make it really small and put it on a phone, right? It's gonna do the same thing. It's just gonna be a different form factor. And then you got applications like Uber who wouldn't exist or Instagram that wouldn't exist without a phone. And we're taking advantage of that native capability. So I think that's where we're going with agents, that agents are now able to automate work. And that's what I think is gonna be really interesting is instead of saying, "I'm gonna make, like, BDRs better," I'm just gonna skip the whole process of like, the sales process will change because I'm gonna be able to build an agent that gets you what you need directly without going through all these multiple hops. So I think we're gonna see some real changes in how organizations work, and that's harder for people to get their head around and the newer companies are gonna do it instinctively, and because they're starting out, and they might and especially if they're, like, first-time founders and they've never seen anything else, they're gonna be like, "Oh, that seems better." I read a post by a guy I know from Google who has a startup. He's like, "I have a team, my marketing team is 100 AI agents. I have no one in my marketing team, and here's how I manage my 100 AI agents."
Yeah. IT is the new HR. I think that's kind of like the digital idea, right? Literally managing agents. So I love your analogy. We don't even need the spreadsheet. We don't even need the phone call. So you remind me of conversation I had with Renil. He's the chief data officer at Lloyd's Banking Group. He advocates for something similar to what he said. There's kind of like incremental improvements, but there's also reimagination. So that's kind of like the phase 2 that you're talking about. So I guess if we continue in this phase of there's a new vision, we can reimagine how things work, and agents play a big part to that. Can you tell us a little bit about, Glean, what's Glean about? Maybe we can start with that.
Yeah, I'd love to. So Glean is a work AI platform. I'll tell you a little bit of the history of Glean because it gets you to where it is now. The founder and CEO of Glean is a guy named Arvin Jain. I knew him back in our early Google days, and then he left Google and started Rubrik, which is a data security company. And when he was there, he found it really hard to find information. And as the company grew, it became very hard to find information. And so he's like, I know about search. I should build an enterprise search engine. And so he left Rubrik and started Glean in 2019. So it started as enterprise search. crawl and index, like read all of your documents from your SaaS application. So Google Drive, Microsoft, Slack, Jira, Confluent, Salesforce, any product that you use in your organization, Glean would read those and then understand them and be able to find information. So think of Google search, but within your organization. So Glean spent like 5 years building a very robust enterprise search engine to be able to find information. Then when GPT-3 came along, ChatGPT added an assistant interface. So now you could, just like ChatGPT, ask a question, but of your enterprise. And think about if you're like a large enterprise with tens of thousands of people and you have all of this information. You might have acquired 100 companies over your lifetime and they're all in different places. And so now you can ask a question and find the most relevant information for your entire organization. So that's the assistant interface for Glean. And then add on agents, which we launched this year, which is now, think of Glean as the context of your organization and a knowledge graph of your organization. Now, what is an agent? An agent is something that has multiple calls to an LLM, multiple tools, and can take action. So now you can build a workflow that understands your company to take action on something that you need done. So that's the evolution of Glean, and the result is a work AI platform that understands the context of your organization and can help you be productive.
Great, great. So if you buy in this vision of AI agents within organization, then you need to really know how the organization work, how it operates, and all the internal knowledge. So it sounds like that problem was solved beforehand. So now it's a great platform to build on top of. So I love that. So what are example of how AI agents are being used in practice, and what sort of problems can it solve for organizations?
So it's a very horizontal platform. So you can build whatever agent you want. You can use the prompting for your assistant. So I'll go give examples kind of across the gamut. But engineers can use Glean for incident management. So you get an incident, how do you debug it? How do you find all the information that you need? Or you need to write a function and like find all of the design docs about this feature and function, plus all the code that was previously written. And so it helps give you input to what you need and find all the customers that had issues or requests around that. So that's kind of for engineers. For product managers, a product manager needs to understand the context of the customer and customer requests. So it used to be that you had to talk to 100 customers. Now we still talk to customers. Like that's important to talk to customers, it used to be that was the only way you got input. Then there are tools like Gong that record calls and then you could listen to the Gong calls. Well, now you can write an agent that will go over all of the customer calls that you have recorded for the last year and say, what are all the features that customers have requested? And who has requested multiple features, and who is the person in your company that could tell you the most about this customer, and put it in a spreadsheet. And now in like 5 minutes of building this agent and running it, you can get all of the information that would have taken you maybe quarters to go through and either listen to all these calls or talk to all these customers. So things like that are really changing how we do development. Another good example is product managers hate writing help documentation, so you can build an agent that will say, "Take all the design docs that for this feature, look at all the help documentation on our website, write a help document in the format of the documentation on our website for this feature." Now, is it 100% perfect? No, it gets you 80% of the way there, and then you review it and you make small changes. So you're not gonna, like, publish it directly. You're gonna wanna read it and review it, and then sales teams prepare me for a meeting. I'm going to meet with this customer. Tell me everything you know about this customer, like find out what they talk about in the news. What are their biggest issues? What is their AI strategy? Who from our company has met with them before? How did the meetings go? Do we have anybody employed at the company who worked at this company? And prepare a briefing to brief me. I use Glean before I meet with any customer to do exactly this. Prepare me for the meeting. And if it's a prospect, it's more what I said. If it's a current customer, what issues do they have? Have they had any incidents recently? Are they waiting on any feature requests? So I have these agents that I've already built, and all I have to do is input the name of the customer, and it'll brief me. So I used to have to like talk to the salesperson or the customer success manager and ask them all this information. And now you get like this really robust briefing. And I could, so let's say somebody else in the company, one of my peers, wrote an agent to do that. I can use their agent, or I can copy it and change it. And like maybe their agent, they're a marketing person and I'm a product person and I want different information. So then I can just copy it and edit it for me. And then I can share it with my team. So you can build agents and share it so that they could use it. So this is just kind of gives you an idea of the agent can be searching the web, it can be searching your internal files, it can be looking at tickets, it can write a document or a spreadsheet, it can send an email directly if you want it to, or it can update a Salesforce record. So those are the example of actions it can take.
I love it. So many use cases that are really meaningful. Over the next sort of 2 to 3 years, what sort of challenges do you foresee, you know, in the industry to move from incremental improvements to reimagination?
People's imagination, I think. If AI is gonna improve a lot over the next couple of years, I mean, we see it in the pace that it's at. If it did not improve at all, if the if the LLMs and the foundation models stayed exactly where they are today, there is so much more benefit companies could get from using them that they're not getting today, because it takes time. Getting behavior change in organizations takes a lot of time. And because people are used to working in a certain way. And part of it is like a new generation comes in. Like a new generation came in and was used to messaging in their personal life and then wanted messaging at work. And the generation that wasn't as, was used to email and wasn't used to messaging was like slow and came, that it was really difficult to bring them along. But when a critical mass came and said, we want to use messaging at work, then they all had to come along. So it's gonna be the same thing with AI, and we see new grads who have been using ChatGPT in high school or in college, and it hasn't been that long, but they're we call it, AI native employees, right? It's just like second nature for them. So they're coming in and using the tools much, much more in a way that they're not scared of them, and they also know the limits, they know how to prompt them, and so that's where you're gonna see this shift as more people come in with this AI native mindset. Now, some people who are not the new grads also have the mindset, but you see a stark difference in the people who are just more comfortable with it. And so then back to my first comment about imagination is then being able to vision, wow, I could use it in like this use case that like you're not already wedded to a way of working. So you're just saying, how do I get this job done? And then you're going to be more creative in how it's getting done. So I think that's the biggest impediment is actually change management.
Yeah, I love your answer. People imagination. That's such a beautiful way to put it. Super cool. So, Tamar, I've got a couple more questions that are maybe a bit more personal, quick fire round. Are you up for it?
Sure.
All right. What was your favorite programming language or still is?
Oh, your favorites are always the ones you learn early on, so I had, a special affinity for Lisp because that was, like, what I did my master's thesis in. I can't say I've touched it in decades, but it's got a special place in my heart.
That's great. I love that. I guess the Lisp is technically the first sort of programming language that was designed for AI, right? In reasoning.
Exactly.
So that's cool. What was your favorite subject at school?
Math.
I suspected that. And finally, what's your favorite music genre?
I love musicals.
All right. What's your favorite?
Well, my all-time favorite is a tie between West Side Story and Sound of Music. So I performed in West Side Story when I was in high school.
Wow.
And I don't sing, but I dance, and so I was one of the dancers, and it was so much fun. It was, like, the highlight of my high school.
Oh, wow. That's super cool. Thank you, Tama. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you so much. It was so much fun talking to you.
This conversation with Tamar was such a treat. What an absolute pleasure. There's so many really great insights. And I'll start with a discussion around boards. Now, when we think about a board to be there to support the executive team and also keep them accountable, what should they do in the world of AI? So if we focus on private companies, Tamar made the point that, not every board member needs to be technical, but you need at least one subject matter expert that can really be credible and provide challenges. Now, what should board do? Well, at a minimum, you should be asking your exec team, what are you doing about AI? What is your AI strategy? What are you doing to create value using AI? And board should be challenging both the operational side. So what sort of efficiency are you driving through AI, but also what are you doing on the revenue creation side? So what are you doing around new customer experience or new product lines using AI? So that was a really important point. And on top of that, conversation progress to how you're keeping the execs accountable. So you do need metrics that are reported in the board pack. Now, those metrics have to be focused on the business, like business metrics. It might be SLA improvements. It might be speed, it might be time, it might be margin expansion. But on top of that, you want to have something around what's the general adoption of AI in the organization. So that was a really great conversation. Then the second takeaway is really our discussion around incremental versus reimagination in the world of AI, especially if you think about the future of AI agents. Now, what's the main blocker or the main challenge to make this vision a reality? I love how Tamar put it together. It's people imagination. And companies have a great opportunity here to support their workforce, right? So you want to do it top down and bottom up. So top down, you want your leaders to be confident using AI. They should be using the tools themselves. And really what you're doing here is to model behavior. But you also need to do it bottom up, create those champions, those change agents. And like we discussed before, hackathons are a great way to do that in your organization, where you pair up business stakeholders, engineers, product managers, people on different business functions, and work together and come up with ideas and make it happen. And all of that, of course, really resonates with a mission at Cambridge Spark to educate the workforce in the world of AI. So that was super cool. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Data and AI Mastery. If you found value in today's discussion, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an insight from the leaders driving the future of data and AI. And if you're a data and AI leader looking to upskill your workforce with the fundamental data and AI skills to transform your business, Cambridge Spark is here to guide you every step of the way. Be sure to reach out to us on LinkedIn or on our website, cambridgespark.com. Until then, be sure to keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with data, and remember, mastery comes with continued learning and action. Until next time, stay ahead, stay inspired, and stay masterful.